Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Five Drinks or Midnight, the show where we bring the questions, guests bring the drinks, and we try to wrap up before midnight. Today, we got a special one. We're talking to Alex Chasko, the master blender, master distiller for Teeling, one of my favorite Irish whiskeys of all time. Before we do, like and subscribe, hit all the bells, the whistles, everything. It'll really help us out. Let's get started.
Five drinks, five questions, or midnight. Whatever comes first.
Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Five drinks or midnight, five drinks, five questions, midnight, whatever comes first. So excited, huge fanboy. I can't wait to drink with you. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Tim?
I'm good. I'm excited. I love Teeling. So I've been doing a lot of social stalking. I mean research, and I've been hitting up a lot of your coworkers for questions. So I'm really excited for this.
Oh, very good, very good.
So I guess the first thing is what are we drinking first?
We're drinking first as a stout. Now, doesn't have to be any particular stout. You know what I did actually? I went and raided the cupboards. I started looking at found this in the back of the cereal cupboard. It was, I don't know exactly how it ended up there, but it's from the Porterhouse Brewery. That's a celebration stout, and it's one that they aged in the Cooley casks. And this was aged as a barrel aged stout in Cooley casks. It's 11%. When was that bottled? I'm hoping it's still good. I'm hoping the cereal cabinet was good to it. I'm gonna say that's at least 9 years old.
Oh wow, excellent. Well, let's hope it's still good. I just got a little bit of a Guinness, so hopefully.
Yeah, Guinness is great. There's loads of that made in this town, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's just something quick that we can get here in Brooklyn. So I can't get any of those.
And how's Brooklyn?
Oh, it's good. It's lovely here today. It's almost 60, so we're getting what we call fake spring. So uh, uh, and I can tell you that it's 60 because you're an American. So even though you're living in Ireland, you understand when I say 60. So
I understand that it's not like over halfway to boiling. Yes.
Yeah. But excellent. Well, cheers.
Cheers, Sandra. Ooh,
How is that?
that's nice.
It's
still got decent amount of carbonation on it there. Yeah.
Well, excellent. Well, that gets us into our first question. So, how does a guy from Oregon end up in Dublin as the master distiller of Teeling?
Love, Tim, love. Or as John Teeling, the father of Jack and Stephen Teeling, likes to remind me, lust. Lust is what's brought me to Dublin. Yeah. My wife is Irish. So she's from Tipperary, from a little town in Tipperary called Templemore. And it's the love of a good Irish woman that's brought me to Ireland. So I'm American Irish, right? There's loads of Irish Americans out there. Yeah. There's 37 billion people went that way, right? And I'm one of the 17 people that went the other way. Yeah.
Excellent. And then two, you have more of a brewing background. Like you started out in brewing, and then like two, you bring a very unique style, which we'll get into question two. But like, did you want to always end up in whiskey, or were you? Is it like that's where the path took you, or were you going to be a brewer? Like kind of.
It's a little of both. Like I was a brewer. I was a professional brewer. Like I started. So I was a child of the '80s, right? Grew up in Portland, Oregon, and in the 90s in Portland, the like big cool thing that was going, besides the Simpsons coming out, the big cool thing that was going on in Portland was the whole microbrewery scene, or we now call it the craft beer, right? And there was a guy, Carl Ockert, who was friends with my dad, who started up Bridgeport Brewing Company. And growing up, I just would have heard about Carl and like what they were doing down at the brewery, and just always thought it was kind of cool. And when I was like 18, maybe 19, went down to, he was working at the time at Nor'Wester Brewery, went down and a tour around, and he was talking about fermentation, and that reminded me like of the biology in high school, right? And he was talking about like boiling and hops, and that reminded me of like chemistry. I'd always kind of had a lot of interest, was never really a great student, right? But I kind of had a lot of different interests in a lot of different things. And it started to like tick some boxes for me. And I got to the end of the tour, and he handed me what I now know as a 6-pack of low fills. They're ones that weren't full enough, so they couldn't legally sell them. And I was like, this is cool. This is wow. Like, all right, rock and roll. Yeah. And one of the things that was always kind of interesting to me there was like how far could you take it? The craft beer scene was about like moving on from fizzy yellow lager, right, to Hefeweizen and porters and stouts and different IPAs and all this sort of stuff, right? And I think whiskey was just sort of like trying to take that to the next level. That's why I kind of like this T-shirt. I wore this T-shirt to be when it grows up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm hoping that's true for myself too.
Same, very much. And then too, is it true that you were one of the, or you were the first, or you were one of the first that really kind of started the IPA movement here in the States?
Yeah, that's amazing to realize that Bridgeport was making cask conditioned real ale, right, in Portland. So it was all about ESB, extra special bitters, IPA, India Pale Ales, right? British porters, British stouts, yeah. And so the IPA was one of our first beers that we had, and it was one of many, right? It wasn't like we were thinking we're gonna start the revolution here, right? It was like it's one of 5 beers that we were making at the time. And did we think that it was going to become the international success over 30 years? No. And in fact, Bridgeport isn't even still around. Bridgeport actually went out of business. So like it's I guess it's an interesting lesson. And like it's not necessarily being first. It's like what are you doing with it? And they stuck with that British IPA sort of route. Yeah, they didn't go down the mango IPA. They didn't go down the like the 90-minute or the 120-minute or any of the sort of big crazy how much hops can we put in there. The beer that we were brewing had probably double the amount of hops that your typical English style beer would, right? But we were in Portland, Oregon. There's Cascade, Willamette, and Yakima hops all over the place. They're $1 a pound. Why wouldn't you put 3 times more than you're supposed to in there? We were going to brew a bigger beer, a little bit higher ABV. And I guess what I learned at Bridgeport was to focus on the flavor. What I learned there was like, don't worry about like, this isn't really true to form. Worry about like, what are we making? How are we going to make it the best? What's our spin going to be on it? What's our take on it?
Excellent. And then what made, like, again, because you were already a brewer, sorry, a lot of follow-up questions, but again, you were a brewer here in the States, and then you went to Edinburgh to receive your master's. Like, what was that kind of jump like? Because I mean, you already were a brewer, so like, why go
over there? It was something I always wanted to do. Like even when I was so I went to University of Oregon for my degree in chemistry. And even while doing that, I was thinking like, wouldn't it be cool to study brewing? Like that would be, but there's not really many places you can do that. Now there's more, but back then there was really 2. There was one in Munich, Germany, von Stefan, right? And then there's Harriet Watt in Edinburgh. And so it was like, right, learn German. At the age of 23, probably not going to learn German, right? Probably a little bit late for that, Alex. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You can go to Harriet Watt and you can learn about whiskey and making beer. I was like, Brilliant, great, and you get to live in Scotland, so yeah, why not?
Excellent. And then that brought you to Cooley and then to Teeling. So is it true that you were the first employee of Teeling?
I am the first employee. It was me and Jack Teeling in the beginning of it there. Yeah. There was about probably 9 months where it's just the two of us like typing emails back to each other. Like, why isn't this done? Because you never told me.
Well, excellent. Well, I mean, I think that's a freaking amazing origin story. So that's question one. So we could sip on our beers a little bit, or we can move on to question two. Totally up to you.
Whatever works for you, Tim. Like I'm fine with moving on if you want to move on.
Yeah, we can move on. I didn't get fully into my Guinness, but like we're fine. So
yeah, it's all right.
I don't ever want to rush a man in his beer. So like question two, what are we drinking?
We're drinking small batch.
Excellent.
Yeah. So this was the first whiskey. Like, what was going on in those 9 months that Jack and I were the only two people in the room, right? We were talking about this. We were trying to figure out how were we going to make this? What was this going to be? What was going to happen? So let's pop that open. I guess the nice thing about lockdown is we're not driving anywhere. So
yeah, well, and that's always the great thing about the show is too you can't get you in trouble for being out late because you're already home. So
if you're not at home, there's other questions to answer, right?
Excellent. Cheers.
Cheers, Sanja.
Oh, this is so good.
Now, let's do something crazy, Tim.
All right.
You just took a sip of the small batch, right? Let's take a little bit of that stout there with it. I'll just oh yeah.
Oh wow.
I think the sweetness of that whiskey and the sort of roastedness of the stout, they go brilliant together.
Oh, that totally changes the Guinness.
Doesn't it? That's dangerously drinkable.
Yeah.
You can be very sensible with the first one. You can be like, no, I'm just enjoying my whiskey and my Guinness. And then the fourth one comes around and you're like, what? What's happened?
Where am I? How did I get here?
Huh? 4 a.m.? How did it become 4 a.m.?
Oh, I love the small batch. That is so good. All right. Well, then on to question two. So you guys use two different kinds of malts, and then more importantly, two different kinds of yeast. You have a brewer's yeast and then the South African wine yeast. Is that correct?
Bingo.
Excellent. Can you? I mean, I've read like this was all so much fascinating because again, reading and listening to videos of you talk about why the wine yeast and where like the smell of like the pear tree actually didn't come from a pear tree. It actually comes from the yeast. Can you like why the two different kinds of yeast? And then two, can you tell us about that yeast kind of thing?
Yeah. So like for a brewer, that's a big thing that the brewery is all about the yeast. Like there's a brewery that was around in Seattle, right, back in the 90s, where they had gone over to Germany and they'd gotten like a brick of this dry yeast from Germany, and they were slowly shaving off a little bit of the yeast and using it in each batch, right? And they'd gotten down to like the last little bit, and they were like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" Right? That from a brewer's point of view, it's the yeast. There's a special yeast that you use for a Hefeweizen. There's a lager yeast that you use for a lager. There's ale yeast that you use for ale. There's all sorts of like, this yeast is suited for Belgian quads. This yeast is suited for light hoppy beers, and and that doesn't exist in whiskey. And I was kind of like, well, if I know that that's true for beer, if I know that I would never brew a Hefeweizen with a lager yeast, right? You'd have to be an idiot to do that, right? From a brewer's point of view. Why wouldn't we explore all of the wonderful flavors and aromas that come out of yeast and whiskey? Because whiskey is like basically just throw in distiller's yeast, bing, bang, boom, Bob's your uncle, off you go, right? And I was like, we can do something more there. I wasn't sure what we were going to do. But I started talking around to some other distillers, and there was people that were using, it's not an original idea. Tim, I'm going to let you in on a news flash. I'm not stupid, but I'm not some sort of genius, right? Like there's a lot of other people that have done things before me, and I'm sort of the guy who was like, why don't we take some of that and some of that and put them together? And people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. And you're like, no, really, I just took, I stole. So other people were talking about this, and I just took the practicality of like, right, let's start playing around with different yeast strains and seeing what happens. And we had an intern, we had a summer intern, Ulrich, who I was like, look, Ulrich, go get 10 buckets. And we're going to start filling these buckets with different yeast strains, and we're going to see what works. And I made him taste them all. I was like, you taste the 10, tell me the 4 that are good, right? And then I smelled those 4 and I think drank 2 of them. Right? Yeah, so that's how and it's the practicality, right? It's the, look, what do we got? We got buckets, we got yeast, we got wort. Let's see how we can. But what the yeast does, yeast, you're right. Yeast doesn't know a pear tree exists, right? Yeast starts making all of these different compounds because yeast is trying to attract flies. Yeah, I think that's amazing. That was a revelation for me.
Yeah, no, like when I was reading that, and I also like watching the video, because like again, yeah, you said that it was about how yeast is doesn't bend to the human will, and that it just mimics what it needs to do to actually reproduce. So like it smells like a pear tree, so that flies will come, and that's how it will move the yeast around.
But even more than amazing than that, a pear tree grew to make the smells that yeast was already making.
Yeah, I got it backwards, but yeah, like that, and like I was watching that, and then it like totally blew my mind, because then, do you? And my follow-up question was, do you get kind of now like, is it the chicken or the egg kind of situation, where is it the yeast that actually makes the flavor of the whiskey, or is it the wood that actually makes the flavor? Because again, it would come down to, wouldn't the wood be mimicking the yeast, like off of that? So like that's like
totally, it's the dog wagging the tail, or the tail wagging the dog, right? Like, like, are we in control, or are these little monocellular organisms all like figured out, hey, there's this big stupid thing out there that if we keep on producing this stuff, I don't even know what it is, right? They'll keep feeding the sugar, and look, there's literally trillions of us. Like,
I will tell you, it totally put me down a weird fucking rabbit hole. Like when I read that, and then like I was like doing like a whole bunch of like just more of that. So like I went down deep, and I just again thought it was absolutely freaking amazing. So I mean again, is there a reason why you went with the white wine yeast, or is it just...
the reason why was because picked up the package and looked on the back of it, and it said grapefruit, papaya, guava, and I was like, I get grapefruit and guava and papaya. And you know, it's funny enough, Jack Teeling eats a grapefruit a day for lunch. And so I was like, there we go. The man himself loves grapefruit, this yeast makes a grapefruit nose. I can smell it. I actually was thinking that before I read it. Let's start putting it into the fermenter and seeing, do we get a grapefruit kind of light fruity nose to it? And you do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was skeptical. I didn't believe it. I thought, this isn't going to work. This is ridiculous. Because you vaporize the whiskey 3 times, right? You literally turn it from a liquid to a vapor 3 times, and you think that grapefruit nose is going to come through? Really? Like we're boiling the bejesus out of this thing 3 times, and we're going to get grapefruit off of
it. And you did. Oh, it's fucking amazing. And then too, is it true that the like Teeling was like founded off of like a you called it spontaneous fermentation, but it was almost like a failure because you thought that it didn't work, and then it just took longer than what you expected. Is that true as well? Or
yeah, it was there was actually St. Patrick's Day. We had 5 years ago St. Patrick's Day. We wanted to be up and running and like we're making whiskey for St. Patrick's Day, right? And the problem with that is the builders. Builders had another timeline that they were working towards, yeah, which wasn't St. Patrick's Day. So I, like an idiot, was like, we need to make St. Patrick's Day happen. We need to make this happen, right? And I start mashing in because the equipment was ready, but the building wasn't finished. And so I was like, I'm going to mash in. I'm going to start making whiskey. I don't care that there isn't a floor. Like there's literally no floor, right? I'm going to just, the tank is there. The pipe work's hooked up to it. The valves are there. It should all work. We've got power. We've got water. Let's do it. And it was a disaster. And it took about 18 hours to do what should have taken 4. And we got through the day, and I was just like, oh my God, that was a nightmare. That was just horrible, right? And then the next step is you have to add the yeast to the fermenter to ferment the wort, yeah? But there's no floor. So you need to add 15 kilograms, right? So what about like 20 pounds, well, more than that, probably like 25, 30 pounds, right? So it was get a ladder. You got to get a ladder, and then the ladder's 2 stories up, right? And it's probably around 8 o'clock at night, and you've just been putting in a marathon horrible day, and you put this 25-pound bag of yeast on you, and you look up at that ladder, and you're like, why am I doing this? This is stupid. Like I'm not a smart man, right? But I'm not going to climb up a 2-story ladder with a 25-pound bag of yeast and try and throw it into this. Like, I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm not doing it. And it'll be gone. It'll be ruined. But like, it's the first of many, right? And I came back the next morning expecting to find my now ruined first batch and go over to the side of the tank, and there's the telltale sign of carbon dioxide pouring over the side of it. And you realize, like, it's fermenting up there. I don't know how. I don't know what's going on, but like somehow it's doing what it's supposed to do. Yeah. So we had this spontaneous fermentation that took place. And you're just like, wow.
Fucking awesome. And then that became the blue bottle. Is that true? Like that became the very no, but yeah. So,
yeah, the pot still. Yeah, that's what we made at the beginning. Was the pot still. Yeah.
Excellent.
So somehow in the 300 years of brewing and distilling in Dublin, and long history of over 40 distilleries and God knows how many breweries and liberties, there's natural yeast that's still floating around there, and Yeah, you put sugar water out and it'll do it.
On to question 3.
Question 3.
Excellent. You said a daiquiri.
You're gonna make me work here, Tim.
All right.
I got a cutting board. I've got a knife, and this is a bit dangerous here. I'm gonna do my brewer's best to actually make a real daiquiri. I got like a shaker here. So when I sent an email, I said like a Hemingway daiquiri. Now that was me trying to be cool, right? I then Googled Hemingway daiquiri, and I was like, no, I'm not doing all that, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go with lime, yeah. I'm gonna go with a bit of orange, yeah, because you can't get grapefruit in Ireland. I'm gonna put it in the shaker. I got a little bit of simple syrup here.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I realized like I've made this far too difficult on myself to try and make it here.
We don't need to stress about it. I mean, you can just pour.
No, I'm not stressed. I'm loving it. I'm liking it. I'm liking it's far fancier than I would ever do for myself. You know what I mean?
And again, I love when people recommend cocktails because again, too, even though you are American, you have been living in Dublin for 10 years, so I'm sure they've rubbed off. Like Irish whiskey isn't supposed to be in cocktails. I mean, that was drilled into my head a very long time ago, and now like it's like everybody's now making cocktails. So like when someone says like let's have a Teeling daiquiri, I'm like fuck yeah, let's do it. Like
yeah, I know. Well, you know what? There's 2 things that I've missed about the U.S. since moving away, and that's an American breakfast, like the skillet, like the just like dirty like potatoes and like hash browns and like the 3 pancakes on the side, like probably 3,000 calorie horrible breakfast that you just can't get in Ireland. You can't like. I like the rashers and the potato pancakes and all that sort of stuff, right? But I like a good old fashioned big,
Yep, I got you.
Dirty spoon.
Yeah,
breakfast.
Diner-esque kind of.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah.
IHOP, Denny's kind of. Yeah. Horrible breakfast. Yeah. And the other thing I missed is an American bartender. I miss that whole like somebody who can make cocktails, right? They're fairly well trained, but they're not like working at the Savoy or something like that, right? And can pour a pint, right? Can pour like a proper pint with a head on it, and somebody who can talk about anything and nothing, right? That kind of like tell your troubles to them. Like they're your psychiatrist, they're your real estate agent, they're
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like that's I've because people here, and again, I know you guys are on serious lockdown, but yeah, everybody keeps asking like when we're like if I'm excited to go back to the pub, and I'm like, yeah, and they're like, but you drink so much like more at home, and I was like, well, now, but also going to the pub isn't about drinking. Going to the pub is about the shenanigans and the trouble and the people watching and talking to the bartender. Like it's that social interaction. But yeah, like you said, like the bartender's your therapist, your real estate agent, like your doctor, like everything.
Yeah,
just
like, exactly. Should I go get this looked at?
Yeah.
You're fine.
No, it's good. Okay. We got some vermouth. Just pour some vermouth over it. You'll be fine. Like just Or super glue and duct tape, and you'll be fine. Like you're totally good. Like just
that an old fashioned, and you'll be all right. Yeah. All right.
All right. Excellent.
Cheers.
Oh, can't go wrong with that. That is so damn good.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? That works.
Yeah.
That's what I love about that. Like it's a daiquiri with Irish whiskey. Like there's no natural reason why you should be able to do that. But like
and again, like the Teeling small batch is so just fucking amazing. Like that is, I mean, for me, like that is just always a great like base spirit cocktail. Like it works with just about fucking everything. Like it
Yeah.
just is like just so.
It works with the beer.
Yeah.
It works
like,
with the fancy foo-foo, fruit juice.
Yeah.
It works with
outs and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It works with bitters, and it works with tiki drinks, and
Yeah. You can't go wrong. Like that. That is like everybody needs to have at least 3 of these in their house. Like it just goes through. All right. So question 3 then. Teeling's known for some very unique expressions that you guys have released. I mean, you've done the ginger beer cask release, you've done the pineapple cask, and even some of like your wine finishes that you've done. How do those come about? Like, are you guys just sitting around and just being like, oh, this is, or like, especially with like the pineapple rum, is it just like, oh, somebody that we want to partner with, or do you have like a kind of set path for like that stuff?
all of it. All of that. Yeah, there's a bit of like, we want to, like, I think Alexander Gabriel is an amazing man, right? And so there was an element of like, I want to find out, how did he make this work with the bartenders, right?
Yeah.
How did he create this product where like everybody was like, that's what I need, that's what I want, right? And so that was definitely part of it there with the plantation pineapple. Yeah. Part of it is also you get a bit of a reputation, so people find out like, Teelings are doing weird and crazy things. We got some weird and crazy stuff. Like, are you interested? Are you looking to buy? And you're like, okay, sure, why not?
Well, I mean, like you guys, again, this past summer, you released the Teeling in the can, which was just freaking amazing. And then, but like, when you guys released the pineapple, I told Rob, I was like, I need to have that, and like ended up getting that and shipped over. And I actually had that before a lot of the brand ambassadors in the States had it. So like I was giving it to your brand ambassador. So it was
Thank you.
But I mean that, and like the ginger beer, like that, just like when you guys talk about like you do the Phoenix Forum stuff and you're releasing new stuff, like I mean it's just always such an amazing kind of experience just to watch like what you guys come up with. And I mean even into like the wine finishes and like all that stuff that you guys have done. And again, the Irish whiskey works really great with a wine finish, but like too, it's just something, it just really works. And too, like you said, are you interested? And every time there's something new coming out, I'm very much interested. So like that, like not looking for a scoop or anything, but is there
for
something?
Me, there's loads of more interesting things coming out, Tim. Don't worry. There's plenty of them. I have a hard time keeping up myself. That is for sure. What's funny for me? It goes back to those craft beer days, right? Of like, let's say you're a Heineken drinker. Let's say you like Bud Light, right? And you wake up in the morning and you think, man, there must be something more to life than just Bud Light, right? What else is out there? And you see your friends drinking these Hefeweizen. You see your friends drinking these Belgian beers. And you see that there's these lagers from Germany. You see that there's and there's this wonderful world of beer out there that you can start to go and explore if you're interested. You can start to see, what is the Baltic Porter like, right? There's an amazing selection from around the world that's available, right? But in whiskey, if you want to start exploring different flavors and unique expressions, right? I'm not trying to say that they're all the same, but it's definitely Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors, right? They're very much in the same kind of category, right? And that's what I like about Irish whiskey and Teeling, is that like you can take Irish whiskey, which is known as being smooth, which is known as being light and approachable, right? And you can take that as a canvas and you can just start painting all sorts of other. You want to go Calvados? Boom, start painting some Calvados on. You want to go ginger ale? You can go ginger beer. Or you want to go pineapple? You can do that. You want to go whichever way you want to go. And what I've been shocked by is how Irish whiskey has so much flexibility, and there's such finesse and grace in the way that it accepts those different flavors, right? So it's really the perfect medium for somebody to say, I'm thinking about this, or I'm thinking about that, or let's try a beer cask, right? Boom, stout.
Yep.
You know, you can take those two together, and you can be like, yeah, I like the whiskey and stout, but like, well, what if we put them together? Oh, well, how would that work? And then you can start going down that journey. And I think what I saw with craft beer is, as soon as people start moving on from fizzy yellow lager, as soon as people start moving into other IPAs, then session pale ales come up. Then whatever, you know, hazy East Coast and all the other things start to happen after that, right? And I think it's taken a bit of time for spirits to get there, but I think spirits is right on the cusp of doing that sort of thing of like, oh, we don't have to just be in this little narrow band here. We can start to jump over to here, and we can start. And that's one of the things that I really like about the partnerships, and going and talking to Alexander Gabriel, and going and talking to, you know, the Cairo guys in Finland, and going and talking to, you know, sherry makers and all sorts of different people. It's like all of the different things that you can do that are, I never would have thought of.
Again, not looking for a scoop, but is there like something that in your crazy mind, like you just woke up from a fever dream and you're like, oh, I want to try this kind of thing?
Yeah, there's been loads of that. There has been, right? Like wanted to try cider. Yeah, and then you realize like, well, wait, but we've got Calvados, right? Like, why? I don't have to go with like cider. I can actually go and get some like amazing French Calvados. And I think what's been probably more amazing for me is not like what I thought of, like, oh, let's do, you know, bubblegum sour or whatever, right? Yeah. It's the things that I never would have thought of. It's the things that people come to me and they're like, well, we've got this really great pineapple rum. Yeah. And you're like, I'll admit, at first I was like, I don't know if it'll work. But like the one that I really didn't think was going to work, we did a Riesling cast with a winery in Germany.
Okay.
And like, I like German Riesling. I think German Riesling is a nice wine, right? But like, it's really light, delicate flavor. So you're going to get that in a whiskey. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard, right? And we found this guy outside of Frankfurt who was making these biodynamic Rieslings, and went to the winery and was talking to him. And it turns out he's a former master champagne maker for Bollinger, right? And like, he's a guy who like really knows his stuff. And then was taking the small batch that we had done in the Riesling cask and saying, what do you think of this? And him saying, I can taste my wine in your whiskey.
That's for me, like, you guys, I had a Pennsylvania exclusive where it was the white wine cask, and I was like, oh, I don't know about that one, but it's fucking amazing. Like that, like, you totally get that sparkly freshness from the white wine in the Teeling, and it just make like, it makes the Teeling sparkle. I don't know how else to say that, but like, you get that experience, and like, that's just. And again, yeah, the pineapple is just like, for me, that is, if you would have told me that was a whiskey, I wouldn't believe you. But then at the, like, you get that the Teeling at the taste at the end, the finish of that Teeling just hits you in that back of the throat, which is just freaking amazing, because it's just two really great things. It's a good.
And I wish I could take credit for it, Tim, but it's the wood that's doing that. It's the cask. And it does it with far more finesse and elegance and grace than I ever could. A lot of my job is stepping back from my expectations or my desires and my wants, and to just sort of say, well, what is this? What do we got? And you're like, you know what? We've got an amazing pineapple nose. We've got a bit more sweetness going on here. I think it's there, guys. I think it's not quite what I was expecting it to be, but like, you know, it's not quite pina colada, but it's got other elements that are a lot more than I ever thought it was going to be.
Well, just throwing it out there, chili peppers and Teeling sound amazing. So.
I was trying to get Tabasco sauce casks for years.
So what's number 4?
Number 4, we're drinking Browse on 3.
All right.
Look at you, Mr. Fresh Bottle.
Yeah, it's been sitting there. It's been waiting again.
Oh.
All my bottles are willing to be opened. There just needs to be that special occasion to be opened. And oh, love that sound. Good there.
Wow, Slanja.
Cheers, sir.
Oh. On that nose, what I'm hoping you get is that chocolate and prunes and real raisin.
Get the rate, yep. That's.
And then there's lovely mouth feel to it. It's like honey.
So damn good.
Yeah, and that sweet burnt sugar. Again, figs. Yeah.
Yeah. Very much that whole like creme brulee. Yeah. Like it's like almost like a fig pudding creme brulee kind of like that. Yeah, that burnt sugar, honey. Oh, just so fucking good.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
And is it true that you've ended this series after 4? You're not going to do a series 5 or anything like that?
No, I think that's gonna be it. Yeah.
Breaks my heart.
It's been good to us, though. You know, it's been great to take Irish single malt and to not go down the crazy and unusual cask types, right? To stick very much to the lines of like sherry and port, right? But to take it in a whole other direction. To sort of, for me, it was a challenge of like, okay, here's a box, right? And like, how are we going to stay in the box, but still go to a place that people don't go to?
So damn good.
So that sherry is from these guys. I don't know if you can see that there.
Yep.
Jimenez Spinola. Yeah. Have you ever tried their sherry on its own?
No, I haven't.
It's unbelievable. So this is the very old stuff. And you can see the.
Well, that's black. That is dark as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
so what they do is they got their own vines, yeah, just outside of Jerez, towards the sea from the city of Jerez, and on your way down to Cadiz, and they grow the actual Pedro Jimenez grape variety there on the chalky soil, right? And then they lay the grapes out in between the rows of the vines and let them start to raisin, right? Let them start to dry out there in the Spanish sun. And they get about halfway dried, and then they bring them into the winery, and they press the grapes and it's the natural yeast off of the grape skins that ferments that to 18% alcohol. Yeah, and then they age it in the cellars, and they get this real tobacco, figs, rich chocolate PX sherry off of it. That's just unbelievable. But you tasted it. You tasted it in the whiskey.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and so for me as a whiskey maker, somebody takes my craft seriously, to be able to use somebody else's cask that they've taken their craft seriously. He's 8th generation making sherry and Jerez, to be able to for him to trust us with old casks and to make something of this quality with it, I think is really amazing. And that's, I guess, what I was talking about. Like, would I have ever thought of that? No.
There's something just really, really nice about it. It just,
You know, I think stands out about it, Tim, is all of those intangibles. It's all of those, the taking the time to have, like, grown the grapes, done the whole process yourself. It's all in house. It's all being done the way that he actually learned his craft from his. It's been passed down from generation to generation, but not necessarily like father to the son. It's gone, whoever was capable or interested in the family and was doing it, right? And Jose Antonio is his name.
wow.
He's an amazing character.
That's so cool. And too, like, I think, again, in our social stalking, I think the one thing that you love the intangible, like the way with Teeling is wrapped up in, you're not. I don't want to generalize it so much, but it was more of like, fuck it, let's see what happens kind of thing. Like that was the way that, like, let's let nature take its course. I can't control it, but let's just see what happens. And like, I think that's I think really amazing, and also one of the things that really makes Teeling stand out. So again,
it takes it takes talent to do that. It takes skill. It takes knowing your own limitations, right, and knowing what you control and what you can't control, and what do you have an ability to make happen, and realizing when something's gone far better than you ever could have made it, right? And so, all right, I'll take credits for the success because I'm going to get blamed for the failures.
On to question 4 then. Comes from some of your colleagues at the distillery. I can't remember who sent me this question, but
yeah, I think I can guess. I think I
gotta. Question 4: why does Irish whiskey go so well with American barbecue?
Oh, wow! What doesn't go well with American barbecue, right? Flavor, bullshit, family, yeah.
Excellent. Do you have a little American grill set up in the backyard, or are you?
I try to. Yeah, we got the Weber back there.
Excellent.
Keeping it real with the lump wood. Yeah, like I try to. I try to represent.
Because a lot of people, like I've come across, not many people have grills. They have like the smoker in the backyard where they'll like smoke a chicken for Sunday roast, but they won't actually like grill up a steak or anything like that. Like that's kind of not really seen as far
blessed
as
with here in Dublin. We've got an amazing butcher. There's a guy in Sutton Cross, Higgins Butchers. They do a I don't want to lie. We'll never let the truth get in the way of a good story, right? 90-day aged, steak, where they cover it in a cheesecloth and then they keep it sprayed and moistened with small batch, and age this side of beef, right? And then they do tomahawk steaks off of that.
Oh fuck,
And
that sounds amazing.
Like, yeah.
And it's made with small batch, like.
Yeah.
Oh wow. All right, I'm gonna have to add that to the list so that when I come back over to Dublin, that
Yeah, definitely. I'll bring you out there. That's no problem.
Oh,
I love going there. My wife hates it when we go there because she knows we're gonna be eating meat for like the next 2 weeks, and she's like, "How much did you spend?" Like, no, you don't understand. It's an investment in the future.
This is gonna be sandwiches for the next 5 days. Like it's just
Yeah. She's like, why do we need 2.5 kilos of pork? Like we don't. There's only 3 of us. No.
I'm hungry. That's the.
You don't understand. It's amazing. It's like the best part of a pig. Like you can't pass this.
So, should we move on to our last and final drink?
Sure, why not? There we go.
Excellent. Got it right here. And unfortunately, this one has been popped many times. So,
yeah, mine has too. That's all right.
But it still sounds amazing.
The Black Pits.
So good. Anything you want to tell us about the Black Pits before we get into our last and final question?
For me, this was revisiting very ground of peat and turf in whiskey, right? But with a subtle change of triple distilling it, taking it in a whole new direction. So it's smoky, right? But it's just one of the elements.
Yeah.
And I think the most elegant way I've heard the peat described, and this it's like the dude's rug. It just ties the room together, right?
Man, it really tied the room together.
So this was a value dog.
Yeah.
What tied the room together, dude?
My rug.
Were you?
I get like a fruit cake that's been made on like you baked via a grill versus.
Yeah, there's like dried cherries and pineapple.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Like that's.
You have to try that. You have to try that. Maybe we get a Dutch oven and try and do a little baking on the grill.
Yeah, this is just. Again,
wow, cheers, Tim.
Cheers. Oh, sorry. So sipping and smelling way before that. Sorry. This was another one that you guys, again, in the forum, and you guys released it, and I was like, gotta have this. This just hit New York too last week, so it's.
Yeah, it's that cross between Irish and Islay.
Yeah. And again, like there a lot of Irish whiskey back in the day was peated, so coming back into that heritage where like you find again, I was not necessarily always I'm not a big fan of Scotch, and maybe it's just the over smokiness, and then like separating the peat from the smokiness, I think is where, and I think that's where you guys get into that, is that you get into that the peat, but not necessarily so much of the smokiness. So like the peat adds the flavor, but there isn't that much of a smoke flavor to it. And I think that's where, because again, I get the like you said, the cherries and the pineapple, and that's where the cake for me really kind of comes out. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but
no, you're right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Technically, what was difficult about that was, how do you get any peat to come out on that third distillation? Because the third distillation just takes your phenol levels and just drops it down to nothing. Now it takes all that fruit and really concentrates it all, right? And it's trying to find that sweet spot as to like, how do you try and the secret is you got to go big. Now this is a go big or go home, and you're not going to get much coming out the other side, but what you're going to get is going to be amazing.
Well, and again, this it's so good, and again, not just being a fanboy, but like this is just such an amazing bottle and just dram. So like again, and drinking it with you is even better. So like, I mean, you can't go wrong for a Wednesday, in my opinion. Like this is just a great afternoon. So So then on to our fifth and final question. Comes down to flip the coin question. You can spin it, you can flip it, you can do whatever you want, but the coin answers your question. Our question actually comes from our friend Rob, who wants us to step in and answer a very long debate, he says, that you guys have had back and forth. So, question 5, are Australians better than Americans?
So, okay, we got the fuck no and the fuck yeah, right?
Yeah, and you can just leave it at the fuck no, because as an American, I was kind of a little offended. So
well, let's see how good I am at flipping a coin here. Right? Rob.
Suck it, Rob. Fuck no.
Fuck no, Rob. Yeah. we have a fun time, him and me. We have a fun time with the more politically incorrect comedy side of things, where he'll walk into a room and I'll be like, "So Rob, like, are you just like constantly on parole, or like what's the story there? Like, do you have to call in like every day still, or what's?"
He did the show last year, and it was really great to get to know him. And I can't wait to drink the same with you, like to drink face to face. But he seems like a good crack to actually just take out and get really hammered and just give him a lot of shit, because like he seems like he actually gets a lot of shit from everybody else. So, but
you know what I don't understand about him? He comes from paradise. He's from Byron Bay, right? Like, which is like the Garden of Eden on Earth. Like, what the hell is I don't know what my excuse is for being in Dublin, but like, come on, like, what, huh?
I mean, isn't he in the same boat? Didn't he fall in love with an Irish girl?
I guess so. I guess that's a pretty powerful thing, right?
There you go. Well, sir, I want to thank you for your time. 5 drinks down, 5 questions. Some amazing whiskey has been had. I want to thank you again, and I really hope we can drink together in person very, very soon. I've got a shitload of your tokens. I'm coming to find you as soon as Dublin opens back up. So, cheers to you.
Cheers. It's been great, Tim. I'll keep the seat warm for you.